What's up, guys? It is Coach Callie B, and this is the Callie B Podcast. Today is part 2 with Coach Evelyn, the head instructor out at Rip City in Jacksonville, Florida. Now, I left you guys hanging a little bit, had a couple of you reach out and say, Coach, you cannot leave me hanging like this. But we had to. We're both instructors, both wives, both moms, both coaches of travel ball teams. Like, we got a lot going on. So, first and foremost, we appreciate your patience in waiting for part 2. Let's get into it. Like, this is interesting stuff. Again, this is why this podcast is called Owning It, Owning Your Opportunity. And Coach Ev is definitely owning this opportunity, and he's owned many before this. But we're going to kind of start where we left off. And we were talking about how there's money being taken out of the rec ball, the little league scene, and there's more going into travel ball. You can kind of, if you want to reiterate that, Ev, and kind of catch everybody, remind them if they're like, wait, I don't know what you're talking about.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, sorry. So I think what I was talking about the most in all of that is, and it's not necessarily Little League not putting back into their community. It's Little League, from my experience here, because we do have some Little Leagues here. They just don't pour what I feel like the community gives to them back into that community, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, because you had mentioned you threw some big names in there. They weren't giving back to that community, and I thought that was pretty good. So I had a coach who coaches out in Virginia. He reached out, coaches his kid. He's actually been working with me with the whole like coaching your kid. He's been doing some work, he and his daughter together, and it's working out better. But Patrick talks about, I guess he converted to a bullpen catcher and in college, and he never suited up. And he said that's where he learned so much about pitching when it comes into that position of being a bullpen catcher. But his question was, this is funny, how can you leave me hanging on this pod? I agree so much with the Little League versus travel, even though I coach 10U travel, not to mention I'm in the same area she was talking about. So this is somebody who like you
was
brought
up in Virginia.
Yeah. So he totally gets it. So if you had the money, let's say Coach Ev comes into town and has the money, like what would you do to set up something that would continuously flow back into that community? Like, I know you've thought about this stuff.
You've got to start from the top. You've got to have a board of people that is committed to not only bringing Little League and the park back to what it was, but that understands that it's going to be a process. I think we talk about it a lot all the time, and how even at the collegiate level, within 3 years, if you're not succeeding, you're fired. You know what I mean? It takes a minimum of 3 years to build a program, minimum. So we need people at the top who understand that side, who understand also that it is a business, and who need to know the needs of their community. Okay. We have areas who have so mumuch talent, but no resources, or the income levels are lower, or it's an area where the kids don't have the opportunity to go play outside of their local park for whatever the reason.
Now, keep in mind this, if you guys paid attention, like the last podcast, that was one of the things I highlighted on Coach Evelyn is, she comes from work ethic. Like her family, they were, what's the word I'm looking for? Seasonal workers. She went out and got a job. Like how many kids today are willing to do that? And I'm not taking a moment to bash the younger generations. That's not what this is about. It's just like the concept of doing that is still there. It's never went away. It's just a matter of why aren't they doing it? You know what I mean? Like,
no, absolutely.
Because I feel like we do have some strongholds. Like I guarantee you, if you were living in Yuma and let's just take Coach Ev, just like you are now, and put you in Yuma, I guarantee you there would be something very successful flowing through that community.
Girl, if you knew how many of my friends who played collegiate softball that are still in Yuma currently that are like, if you were here, you would be coaching our kid. And these are girls who, friends and former teammates and former opponents
Mm-hmm.
whose daughters play within the Storm Surges and they play within the elite whatevers. And, they travel to Phoenix to play ball and they travel to San Diego to play ball. And, they're all within the realm, but they're like, it's just different. You approach the game so differently. And it's not putting me on this massive pedestal. It's just my approach of the game is the understanding and the learning of the game and the continuous learning of the game.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's another thing that connects us is we're very vulnerable. We,
Mm-hmm.
you, in the last episode, you were like, I was bullpen catcher. Like you didn't, there was no like shame associated with it. My parents did this, so I did this. There was no shame associated with it. You're like, each adversity piece I hit, it just made me better.
It came
Like,
with a positive outcome.
yeah. And now, like kids, again, I'm not bashing a generation. So don't like people that are listening, don't think that I'm doing this. I just feel like kids aren't doing that because we're kind of making it fluffy.
We're protecting because we
Yes.
come from a generation where we were not protected. You know
Yep.
what I'm saying? Not saying that our parents didn't love us or anything. We just come up from a different generation. We come
They
from a
did the
generation
best they could.
protected. And so what do we want to do? We want to make sure our kids don't feel a lot of the stuff that we felt when we were kids. So it's not necessarily their fault, and I don't think it's necessarily the parents' fault. I just think there needs to be a happy medium when it comes to that stuff.
Like almost like, okay, this is an absolute non-negotiable. I will not stand for this, but I will stand for my kid, getting criticized by a coach,
Mm-hmm.
the right way. Now, I'm all for constructive criticism, but I also know there are still coaches out there that will break kids.
Mm-hmm.
And there's always a phrase that I like to talk about, like this is the only time you have in your kid's life. And I'm literally living this as I'm talking about this. My oldest son is like packing up. We're getting ready to take him to college in Oregon and play baseball. And
Mm-hmm.
that's it. You literally have a window to ride shotgun with your kid on the good and the bad days through all the adversity.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I feel like our parents did the best they could with what they had when they were raising us. Now I feel like some parents just, there's too much knowledge and they're just like, their kid's 7 and they're like, bleh. And then
Yep.
all of a sudden their kid's 15 and they're ready to leave the house, but they're really 7.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you don't even know how to have a job because I started babysitting at 12. Like I was bucking hay. Like,
But I was just gonna say, when I was 12, I was driving this little old 1980 something Datsun pickup truck hauling hay around my grandpa's farm, and it was stick shift.
yeah, yes, yes, yes. Where are all my stick shift people out? Like, I love it. You can literally, I don't want to give any ideas for sneaking out, but if you park on a hill and
All
you
you
want
gotta
to
do
sneak
is
out without starting your engine, pop that clutch.
put it in neutral. You don't have to do nothing. Take the brake off, and you ride down.
Just go. See the thing, kids, you need to learn how to drive a stick. I'm just telling you. No, I'm just teasing. But I do think there is a sense of that, and that's like you said, there's a process. And I think when we let everything get light and fluffy, we completely forgot that there was a price that was paid to
Mm-hmm.
get programs and organizations to that space. And then,
Mm-hmm.
oh, we wanted to make it easy on them. Well, the whole foundation fell out.
Yeah. And
So
the foundation didn't fall out because the foundation wasn't there. The foundation fell out because the people who are needing to nourish that foundation and keep it strong started trickling away.
yes, we have to pay into those people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and by pay, I don't mean money. I mean like literally a thank you card. Like just something. It goes so big with people who are so passionate about what they do. And they don't do it for something, but come on, we are humans. We
Right.
like to be seen. So
Correct.
for coaches out there who are like, I don't do anything, it's all the girls, or I'm like, no. You're gonna allow yourself to sit in 20 seconds of celebratory emotions.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna eat it because if you don't, you're gonna like explode on something really stupid.
Listen, when my girls are in here and they're doing a good job in the facility, I'm like, oh, who's your pitching coach? I want to meet her. Or like my girl Jazzy, I'm gonna name drop. She's a 2026, she's a top 100 prospect in the country. And I dig in as much as I lift her up,
I love
right?
it.
But at the same time, she's putting in the work, right? We say it, they put in the work. I'm giving her the tools. And if the tool's not being utilized the right way, I step in and I dig in and I'm like, yo, we've been working on this. What's going on? I will give myself credit where credit is due. I won't take it all because, like I said, I'm the toolbox.
Right.
I'm the toolbox. And they take what they need and they take what they need to use and they use it. How they utilize it is on them.
So how do you handle it? You've been coaching long enough. I know it's happened. If you have a kid who's progressing slower than
Mm-hmm,
others, and you get that gut feeling that the parent is growing very uneasy,
mm-hmm,
but you also know because you're that kid's coach that that kid is not putting any effort in, they're not doing anything they're supposed to do,
mm-hmm.
and then you get that text or that email or that call of saying, hey, we're going to try something different. um how did you handle that in the beginning versus how you handle it now? Because I know you probably handle it better now.
So in the beginning, I took it personal, very, very personal. And there's nothing wrong with that because I don't think at the beginning I realized, and even coming from the work ethic that I was raised with, where I was constantly putting in work for myself, as a coach, you look at it as a reflection of yourself,
Mm-hmm.
right? And when they're younger, um, we don't want to overstep the bound of accountability per se. But I took it personal, and the first, and I'll say the first couple times because it happened multiple times. I took
Mm-hmm.
it personal, and I was like, you know what? The grass isn't always greener on the other side, but have at it.
Yeah.
That was literally the response. But now, um, now I come at them in a positive but stern way, and I'm very honest about it. I'm like, if you're going to put the same work ethic there that you were putting in here, you're going to see the same results.
Ooh, we
And
need
I've
to
said that
print
to
that.
multiple athletes.
I love that. That's like a Dear John letter.
And then it's not me closing the door behind them. It's
No,
just me
you're
straightforward.
reminding them. You're reminding them that you are not the issue.
Yeah, no,
The
for
issue
sure.
is them, and this is a great opportunity to reflect and see where the holes are in your work ethic. 100%. Because I, just like you, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. And it's
Mm,
like, but it's not me.
right.
It's not other elements. It's literally, I know that this kid is not putting the work in.
Each individual athlete is responsible for their career. How
Yes.
they choose to use their time and utilize the knowledge that they've been taught is completely up to them.
Mhm.
I can only put the bat in their hand. I can't swing it for them.
Yeah. Because my favorite conversation is like, well, she has a timeline. She would like to throw this mount, let's say she's 12. Oh, I always love it. I always love it when like 10U pitchers go out in California because they come back and their parents are like, oh my gosh, they were throwing 58 miles per hour. And I'm like, okay, move to California. Like, I don't like it's one of those things where like is you do realize like you and I have talked about power surge, right? The
Mhm.
oldest organization out there.
Yep.
um, and how they practice every day. If they're pitchers, they have 2 pitching lessons a week. They all have to have 2 hitting lessons a week.
Mm-hmm.
Like their staff is paid. Like it's crazy what they got going on. of course these younger pitchers are gonna hit higher speeds.
Mm-hmm.
They've got the money. Oh my gosh, we're talking about foundation again. That's crazy.
The facilities are
Yes.
unbelievable. The resources are unbelievable.
Yeah,
The
that's
guy
what I mean.
trained
Like,
for 40 plus years for a reason.
it's just to me, I'm like literally having a full circle moment within a 10-second conversation about like the foundations of, the people that built that and how
Mm-hmm.
it's still going. Like, obviously, they're doing something right. Yes, they're a travel organization, but I feel like there's something in that rec, little league, all these
I'll
other.
tell you what's in it. He does not give his name likeness away to just anybody.
Ooh, he holds it. I like that.
He's very, very specific to who he lets take on his name and his likeness. So
Well,
it's like everybody, if you look on their website, I think maybe 10 teams total. And the majority of them are out of Southern California, out of San Diego.
well, and when you and I put two and two together and I figured out who he was, I remember when Marley's 10U team at that time, we were playing Border Madness and
Mm-hmm.
we played the 10U Power Surge team. And the pitcher for their team, that her grandpa was the one who started it. He was
The
there. And I
CEO.
kept,
Yeah.
yeah, he was there. And I didn't realize it was him. But he came up to me after Marley's game because we ended up losing by 1 to them. It was such a great game.
Mm-hmm.
And Marley had like 10U, like IQ. She was pitching, fielded a bunt and squared up on 2 and got the lead runner out. And all the coaches in the dugout for Power Surge were like, how did she know to do that? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and after the game, the old man came up to me and
Mm-hmm.
complimented me on our little number 11. And I said, can I tell you something? He goes, of course, coach. I said, that's my daughter. That means a lot to me as a mom, as a coach. She works really hard at it. And he goes, well,
Mm-hmm.
you're doing right. You're doing right for her. So after I found out that that was him, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is a legit program.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
I love that. But again, back to the whole increased speed and parents, their daughter not progressing as fast as they think they should. Like you and I have talked about FOMO a bazillion times. Like kids are just as much, as their parents, vice versa, susceptible to it. And I think that's where we as coaches kind of have to stand in the gap and focus on health of our
Mm-hmm.
athletes.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know about you, I don't hear anything about these 10U studs that are throwing 58 miles per hour. You never hear that they go on. You look at Rachel Garcia, there's not a story about her where she was throwing 60 miles per hour at 10. It's like they act like this is going to be the
14U.
front runner.
Nobody cares what you did through 14U.
No, I'm just like, guys,
Like
let your kid
you
play
and
ball.
your parents and your coaches, obviously they want to see you grow and be a better person from it. But no college coach is going to look at your 14U stats and be like, why did you go 0 for 8 this tournament or 0 for 10? Nobody cares.
Yeah,
Sorry.
nobody cares. Like, no, but that leads us to our great announcement. Share with me what you just shared with me before we got on the call.
So I had a meeting with the state director or state rep for National Scouting Report today, and they want me to come on board as a scout associate. So the process for that is beginning.
I love that. I mean, that just literally follows up with the last sentence of we're not worried about what you're doing at 14U. Like, be a great person. Like, you need to focus on that stuff, being an amazing teammate, being a great daughter. Don't be the freaking bratty kid that makes her parents carry their bag. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Like, come on. Like, scouts really do look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Not at 14U though. So start practicing not doing all those things.
At 14U, you should already have that locked down. That shouldn't even be an issue anymore.
Yep. You know what? I kind of find happiness in the fact that I don't think I'm embarrassing to Marley as her mom. It's just she gets into this space like when we get to the field, like there is such a degree of separation between like I think it's because I'm on a mission and she's on a mission.
There's business.
Yeah. And she doesn't like people don't put us together.
It's business. She goes out there ready to work.
And I love it.
Business as usual.
Yep, I'm excited for her. Like I'm so excited to watch her play. Like when I'm not coaching, I love having that place in her life as her coach, but at the same time, if she were to come to me and be like, "Mom, I'm good,"
Right.
like, okay, we're gonna have conversations and I might go help out with a different team but like I don't coach because you're on the team. Like I was a coach long before you came along.
Right. Game's been around a lot longer
Yeah.
than you have.
Yeah. So I'm like, it's just one of those things. But so with that, coming out of the scouting conversation, we're going to jump right to one of the things we talked about in part one, and it was high school versus travel ball. We,
Oh,
we talked about that. And I almost feel like what you have going on in your community is a lot to what's going on in my community. So from Arizona to Florida, Florida to Arizona,
I
like,
think in everywhere in between. I think
well, when
we
I
feel
talk to my friends in
first
the South and
it.
in Texas, like even Oklahoma, like the Midwest, high school ball is a big thing. It's huge. Like if you're out
Mhm.
playing high school ball, you're a joke.
But have you seen the kind of money these people put into these programs? They're recruiting for coaches.
It's
Your only qualification isn't you have to be a teacher.
right.
The
And that's what's
qualification,
killing a lot of these bigger schools.
absolutely. That's exactly what it is. If you're not going, if college coaches, even JUCO coaches, aren't hiring Joe Schmo with teaching experience and 2 years of rec ball under his belt to be there to lead their program, why should a high school? Where
Yeah,
we make a bigger impact at the high school level for their adult life.
no, I
And
agree.
that's the difference. Yeah, I live in an area like I was mentioning before of I live in a community where the school district enrollment has more kids than Yuma does residents.
Like in the city of Yuma.
Right.
Yeah.
Over 150,000 students. And of all those schools, we've got quite a few 6A schools. Yet the only schools you see capitalizing are either your smaller um, schools that their communities are generations and generations and generations of the same families in that community, and they
Mhm.
pour into their school and they pour into their athletic programs, or your private schools.
So would you suggest that these bigger schools like actually hire more qualified coaches, not just teachers?
I think that every school who has a program needs to hire qualified coaches, period.
So what would qualify? Like what would be some of your qualifications?
We talk about this all the time. Our sport, softball and baseball, are two sports that evolve daily. It's
Awesome.
not the same today as it was last year. So there needs to be due diligence. What are you doing outside of your day job if softball and baseball isn't your day job? What are you doing outside of your day job that is making you better as a leader, as a coach? What are you doing to learn the game differently? How are you putting yourself in positions of adversity to understand that the game is growing? Those are the types of questions they need to ask in interviews.
Yeah, no, I agree. Not just, oh, I see that you played high school and you're a teacher here, we're going to hire you.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've heard the stories of 6A schools here not hiring a very qualified coach and just
Mm-hmm.
bringing in a teacher. And, you know, I hear crazy things. I'm not going to repeat them because they were in confidence from players, but it's like, it's scary.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I feel like that's what's killing the vibe for these amazing travel ball kids to
Mm-hmm.
play high school ball.
And high school ball, once upon a time, and we talk about it just now, Texas and Oklahoma, in some areas, playing for your school is playing for your community,
Right.
having pride in your community. I will never take that away from a kid who wants to play for their community, who wants to play for their namesake, the school their parents went to, the school their grandparents went to, the school they represent. Because there's areas where there's a lot of troubled athletes or a lot of troubled kids, and they need a light. They need a positive athlete on the field who's going to pick them up, who's going to be a good role model. That's needed in all areas.
Yeah.
But we cannot do that and we cannot hire the way we're hiring and expect those athletes to want to stick around.
Right.
Even though they earn their scholarships playing school ball.
Because so what if we, no, we're going to put a semicolon on that one because that's going to be next. But something just came to my mind. What if, and if you're in this area, this is going to resonate because we know it happens here. What if you have a travel ball coach who actually does get the position at the school, and then it comes out that they got the position, but they only went for it so their team had somewhere to practice?
Oh, we see that out here too.
Yeah, I can't.
You're doing it for all the wrong reasons at that point.
It's like, why aren't we having a tighter hiring process? Why don't we just do Coach Ev's bullet points?
So realistically, not all travel ball coaches are qualified to coach ball either.
No.
So again, goes back to square one. Hire qualified, knowledgeable coaches.
Yes. I love it. Okay. So we were talking, what did I put a semicolon on?
On how they get their scholarships.
Yes. Okay. So this is a great question because, we're both in a lot of different coaching circles and we hear a lot of people talk. I've heard coaches say high school is not going to be where you get recruited. I beg to differ. I mean, I think because we have really good 2A teams, we have really good 4A teams, we have really good 6A teams. But like Coach Ev we got on one where we were talking about, well, if you're dominating 2A, you probably would be able to cut it 4A. If you're dominating 4A, you would be able to cut it at 6A, but you wouldn't dominate like that level up. And it comes to that work ethic thing. But how do kids get recruited nowadays? I mean, this is huge for you. You're literally going to start going through some real live action, like with this in your new position that's just been offered to you.
So the more I coach in this area specifically, the more, and we talk about this often, the more I realize that unfortunately the travel ball scene has become a big business, right? So all you got to do is slap showcase on a tournament flyer and the herds flock. I mean, they run to it. But you get recruited in club ball. That's where you get seen. Okay. But you come on the radar in the classroom and you earn your scholarship playing school ball. Why do you earn your scholarship playing school ball? Because this is where you manage time. Can you play school ball or can you play ball full time, minimum 5 days a week, and keep your grades up? Woo! Can you be a responsible athlete?
That is amazing. I love it. I love it. That is so good. That is so good.
But it's the truth. I don't care how great of an athlete you are. You can go out there and woo and wow every Division I coach at the Show Me the Money tournament that we have here in Newberry, where we had 75 D1 schools attend this 4-day tournament. Insane. The winner gets $10K and we still have all these coaches, right? It's not shown out to be a showcase, but guess what? They show up because the best want to play. Oh, yeah. Right. So you'll get recognized and if you're not on the radar by then and you're playing and you're playing against a team that's got an athlete that they're watching and you stand out, you're probably going to get your flyers picked up. Right. But if you're not performing in the classroom, it doesn't matter how great you perform on the field.
I was going to say that GPA is on the flyer.
You are a waste of money at that time. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on that. You earn your scholarship in the classroom, and you earn it playing school ball because you're able to manage full-time ball and full-time school. You get looked at, get scouted at these big tournaments in the summer.
So would you say that's for the girls that have the dream to play college ball, that have the goal? Okay. Yeah. What if you have a girl that's like, if it happens, it happens, but she's really good at travel ball. Like she's good, but she decides, I don't want to deal with all the high school drama. Like, so there's always an underlying factor to why they don't want to play school ball.
Okay. There's too many politics in it.
Yep.
A freshman can come in and clean up
Yep.
and every position on that field if they want. But if you're, and this is where we talk about qualified coaches, at that level, you're hired to win. But because there's too much politics, a hiring board, and you're dealing with somebody higher up, the parent can go and say, why isn't my kid getting playing time? And guess what? They're going to get playing time, and for the most part, not all the time, but it happens a lot more than I wish it would.
Yeah.
And not only that, but now you're taking this kid's time and the effort and crushing that work ethic that they've been doing everything in their power to earn a spot, not just on the roster, but on the field. But because little Susie Q over here is a senior, she's going to get more playing time because, well, it's her senior year. I'm not for that. I'm not
Neither
for
am
that.
I. Neither am I.
Senior is there for a reason. Give her that night. Let all your seniors play on senior night.
Yeah.
Win or lose. Other than that, you've got a job to do at that level. And that's
Well,
win
and,
some.
and it's a tough place to be in as a coach. Like, I'm married to a coach. I've sat in on some crazy things. And
Mhm.
when parents go out of their way, like my husband had a gentleman put his finger in his chest after a game one time.
Oh no.
Mm-hmm.
I might be
And
fine, but that's where you catch me and you catch these hands.
oh, there was a reporter right there, and he was actually there. He stayed to, defend my husband. He
Mhm.
wanted to make sure he felt safe. And it was, you ruined my son's life.
Oh.
He started, it was senior night. He
Mhm.
started, like, and I don't know if you know this, but your son actually came to me a couple days ago and let me know about his goals with baseball. So, who is playing the sport when it comes down to it? Who is actively living the sport, or who is actually living vicariously through their kid?
The parent at that point.
It's like, and to this day, there is still a great relationship between my husband and this kid. He's
Mhm.
so grateful. And it's
And
like,
that's where people don't get it. Our job as a coach isn't just to create athletes. It's our job is to create athletes, but even better human beings. I always say my goal is to get wedding invitations.
right?
That is my goal as a coach.
I want to go eat cake.
My high school coach was at my wedding. You know what I'm saying? That is my goal as a coach, to make such an impact that when it's time to share moments of their life that are going to change them forever because of the way they came about to adulthood, I want them to think of me. I want them to think
100%.
of I made that big of an impact in their life.
Yes. I love that. So how do you handle that though? If you have a community who
Mm-hmm.
allows the coaches, no, the parents to run the program. Like how do you, what to me, what I've seen, what I've witnessed, what I've felt, what I've walked through, when I see leadership give a whole program to the parents, it completely cracks the foundation. Again,
Mm-hmm.
going back to the beginning of this episode, talking about that foundation, and it starts falling apart. Nobody
If
wants to play at that school anymore
right,
because the leadership, you know,
buckled.
yeah,
If as a coach you cannot reel your parents in, if they're that big of an issue, send them packing. Find somewhere where they're going to put up with it.
what if they
It's
live in a small community and there's nowhere to go?
Well, then they're going to have to find their kid not playing or sitting the bench, and they're just going to have to deal with it.
I love
Because
it.
the reality is, the best kid on the field will see the bench because of their parents.
Yeah,
That's the truth. That's the God's honest truth.
yeah, parents definitely and it's this weird place, right? Because we as coaches, like especially instructors, because I feel like we have more space with our kids, more conversations with our kids and
Mhm.
our parents. I don't know about you, but I'm all for looking at each kid as two clients, right? I have the client and I have the parent,
Yeah.
you know. Um, and I finally came to a place in what I do where I don't want to have to work with somebody that I don't want to work with,
Hmm.
and if the parent rubs me wrong, it doesn't, and I've learned this the hard way, it doesn't matter how much you speak into that kid. The fact is, they spend an hour with you a week and they're at home getting reprogrammed the entire time.
So I'll tell you a little story. So I run my pitchers classes on Wednesday, right?
Mhm.
And there was this little 10-year girl that was dead set that her mom was dead set that she was level 2. And I was like, bring her to level 1 and I'll let you know if she would qualify for level 2. That's the only way she can get in is if I approve it. She
Mhm.
brings her to level 1. She's not level 2 material. She's level 1. And then she's like, well, um, she brought her back the next week for another level 1 class. And it was really at that point, it was a one-on-one lesson. Nobody signed up that week. So I was like, I thought I was going to have the hour off, but they walked in and they signed up. And so cool. We started working on stuff. And then the little girl chimes in. She's like, well, my other pitching coach said this, that, and the other. And the other pitching coach that I work with was telling me that I need to do this. And so I was like, well, you're here with me now. So we're gonna teach you the way I teach my pitchers to throw. And that was it. She said, okay. At the end of the thing, I went out there and I said, hey mom, I said, what's the deal here? I go, I've been informed that you're bringing her to me, but she's also seeing 2 other pitching coaches. She goes, oh, well, I didn't think that was an issue because you guys all pretty much coach the same thing. I said, absolutely not. One, I go, you're confusing your kid. You're
Right.
taking 3 different pitching coaches with 3 different complete teaching methods, 3 different complete methods of teaching the game. There's no mission statement outside of this door from the other 2 pitching coaches. They just show up to the park and have your kid throw for an hour. I was like, I cannot, and I go, and please don't take this the wrong way. I go, I cannot see your child in this setting if she is going to go somewhere where they're going to undo everything that we just worked on.
Yeah,
And haven't come back.
that's good. That's really good. You have to do that. I actually posted a little bit on my story today because one of my reels from yesterday asked if I also taught the importance of how a good wrist snap
Mm-hmm.
can increase speed as well as fingers. And I'm like, heck
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So instead of like,
Absolutely.
yeah, instead of replying back, I just was like, I screenshot it and did a little video, and it actually kind of put me to what you're talking about right now. And the thing is like you said earlier, we are in a sport that is constantly evolving.
Absolutely.
And the reason why is because we as a human population, we are evolving. We are getting faster, stronger. But here's the weird thing. We're figuring out how to do it with less, um, how would you say, less stress.
Resistant.
Yes, like it's like people are getting too good without the stress, and it's like, oh gosh, they're gonna flatline, So I feel like as instructors, like we do need to create a mission statement. I know this is way far out there,
Mm-hmm.
but that mission statement needs to be the betterment of the kid mentally and
Mm-hmm.
emotionally and physically. We have to protect the kid. And if you're still teaching hello elbow, and I know this is gonna get whatever at me, but if
Go
you're
get a
still
your
teaching
ruffled
that,
feather.
like tell me why. Why are you still teaching that? Like, what benefit does that type of pitching have for anyone within their
because
body? Like,
because the truth is medicine and science have proven that it's not good for them. So unless you're willing to evolve and let medicine and science take their place when it comes to how the body should move, then you need to take a back seat.
And it's not us being jerks about it. It's
No.
seeing kids, working with kids who have been completely broken down by
Mhm.
bad mechanics that were taught to them.
Like I said last time, my finger is meant to move this way. It's not meant to bend back. It's not meant to go side to side. It's meant to go here. Why would I force it to go any other way?
There's a reason why when we're teaching kids how to throw overhand that we do this drill with them. I should not see the ball.
Right.
There's a reason why we don't want to see the ball. If we have a kid like this, we correct it. If we have a kid like this, we correct it. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's a reason why we do that. It's not because some Joe Schmo came up with the drill and all glory to Joe Schmo. It's not that. And I'm just like,
Right.
and I don't run into a lot of that out here. I've actually been coming across some quality instructors out here that there are things that they teach that I'm like, okay, I like that. I'm liking
Mm-hmm.
what you're doing. And there are some that where I'm like, okay, you're no, I'm not, it's not gonna even get past, but I think the biggest thing that makes a good instructor is humility,
Mm-hmm.
honesty, not just with others, but it has to start with ourselves because that
There's
helps
no
us get our
self-reflection.
clients. Yep. And then the ability to learn, to
Mm-hmm.
want to learn. Because we're gonna get taught lessons all day long. But it's when we open ourselves up to actually learn something, that's when things are going to start flowing a lot better, not just for us, but for everyone around us. Like our athletes, we're going to start seeing our athletes like get into this flow state and they're going to have these really good seasons. And ultimately it starts with us. Again, that quality of coaching.
And this is where we talk about too, is you and I have a very open line of communication,
Yeah.
coast to coast. If I've got, hey, I'm having an issue with this athlete and we've been working and it's working in the classroom, but it's not working on the field. You know what I mean? And there's constant, send me a video, constantly a second eye. If we as coaches and we as instructors can go about doing our job that way instead of seeing it as competition and letting our ego get the best of us, I don't need help. If we as coaches could do that, our sport would be in such better hands.
I know. Yeah. Are you going to the NFCA conference this year?
In
Because
December, I think so. I think so. I think I'll be there.
okay,
Well,
registration's
with
open.
with especially now with NSR, there's a very good chance I'll be there.
Yay. Because you're gonna love it because at least this is what I gather is it's just an abundance of information. Like
Mhm.
coaches that are on the stage that are like, write this down, take a video, even though you're gonna get a video. Like the NFCA, like it takes about a month, about probably 6 weeks if you're a member. And because you paid for the conference, you get
Mhm.
everything you went to, you get the video.
Oh, that's awesome.
You can go back in and you can like, I didn't get all the notes on that because I still write notes. I'll still video because I'll be sending stuff to the coaches I coach with, like, dude, check this
Mhm.
out, you know? So that's what I like. I find that when I do come across coaches who don't want to share and it's not information, I can just tell because they tell me their accolades right out of the gate, and I'm like, I don't care. I don't care that you're coaching with an all-American pitcher. I don't care that you are a professional Division I umpire. Kudos.
Yeah.
Tell everybody, tell Patty I said hi. Oh, wait, you haven't coached OU or you haven't umped an OU game yet? Okay. It's coming. Your time's coming. But I don't care. Like, I want to be around people that have been in the trenches, have done what it took to get out, and like they're out and they're helping others get out of the trenches to be
Mhm.
better coaches. And when you're a better coach, you in turn become a better person,
Mhm. And we put
you
out better
know,
athletes, better kids.
100%. So again, recap on the high school versus travel ball. Ultimately, it's going to come down to work ethic. It does get you recruited in the classroom, your
Mhm.
GPA, but also puts that you're working hard 5 days out of the week. Colleges want to see that. That's another reason why I still like two sport athletes.
Mhm.
It's crazy as a parent to have a two sport athlete, and our kids, for some reason, like our oldest, he played football 1 year and then didn't play sophomore year, went out his junior year and ended up missing an opportunity to be scouted by some pros because he had to earn his pads but earned his pads. That following Wednesday went in, told his coach, Coach, I love you to death, but just isn't my thing. And we as
They
parents were
should
like,
pick which sport is their number one sport for sure.
yeah, he exhausted all his resources to make sure that he was making the best decision.
Mm-hmm.
And he did. Our middle, he's a sophomore. He made the golf team last year. I think if there was lifting at his high school, he would definitely be on the lifting team. Because he's into that stuff. And then our daughter, I don't know if she's
in all high schools. We need to put an Olympic weightlifting team in all high schools.
100%.
They're going to college, have no idea that they're going to have to go power clean. They're going to have to pull a snatch, and they're going to have to do everything and anything to get stronger. And if they don't have a base for it at a young age, again, that's where qualified coaches come in. They'd have to hire somebody who's certified.
I'll tell you what, Marley, she had a teacher in 6th grade who was in this health and fitness journey, and he had a phenomenal before and after, right? It was awesome to watch this guy go through it. But his passion for what he was doing in his own life, he took that and opened up a club after school, and it was a weight club. And they were in 6th grade, so they weren't just like lifting plates, but he was teaching them how to do resistance band training.
That's awesome.
Like all these things. And we were driving one day and she's like, Mom, he's one of my favorite teachers. And I was like, really, why? And she was like, well, he taught me so much about lifting. I know you and Dad know a lot, but like, I really feel like that year helped me be a better athlete.
Yeah.
I was like, it was just so random. So yeah, so I don't know if she's gonna do, multi-sports. We're gonna encourage her, and if they don't have a weights sport, I'm definitely gonna try to get it going at her school. What do you do about the athletes though? Because I have dealt with this several times. They want to be a multi-sport athlete, but they can never stay healthy, like body healthy.
Train different.
Thank you.
Don't play a sport. Train different. Train your body differently.
Yep. They're afraid to lift weights because they don't want to gain numbers on the scale. And I'm like,
I'm sorry.
This is why you're hurt all the time.
If I keep a little bit of the weight on, that means that I could lift double my body weight. I'll keep the weight.
Yeah, we've got to, we as coaches, especially female coaches, we have to change that narrative. Because I'm telling you right now, I wouldn't be the athlete I am now if I didn't have that mentality in high school. I used to lift with the football team. If I knew I was pitching double headers, I would eat a foot-long meatball sub on my lunch break so I could get through 2 games. Like,
right. It's crazy. These girls, and I know you have a good following on Instagram, they need to follow Amanda Lorenz and her weightlifting journey.
They need to been watching her stuff.
Michaela Edenfield, the catcher at Florida State.
Yeah.
Allison Royalty. These girls are tiny and they're strong.
Yes.
Follow them on Instagram. If you want to quit following all these little kids that do you no service. Go follow these girls that you need to look up to and look at their work ethic.
Well, Marley and I, we've been following Allison forever. Like when COVID hit and she created her little fitness thing on the side and was lifting in her, I remember it looked like just a regular bedroom. It had carpet on the floor and she had her weight set up in there and she's still pressing through. Yep. And she's still grinding out. I mean, she was at ASU and then last year she was at Florida State, and it's just like, you got to go watch her play. Like she's doing some things. Let's talk about Allison for just a minute though, just to focus on if anybody comes across this and their kids in homeschool.
Yeah.
So you had mentioned Allison's homeschooling journey, and this might actually, give some good feedback for some parents.
You know who else was homeschooled?
Drop it. Oh yeah, I remember that.
He was homeschooled and he played football at his neighborhood school and right here in St. Johns County at Nice.
Yep, I remember that.
So I mean, homeschool athletes, man, are some of the hardest working kids.
All the ones that have played for my husband, same thing.
Put in the work.
Yeah.
And they unfortunately don't have access to school resources unless it's in season.
Right. I agree with that.
Time. She quit playing school ball her junior year and solely focused on travel ball. And she moved from Texas to California in the summer and in the fall, and she would do school full time and she would play ball full time.
And that's Allison Royalty, if
Mm-hmm.
anybody didn't catch that. And if you don't know who she is, just literally Google her, go into Instagram. It'll pop up. She's that girl just thinking about, I remember seeing all the hype when she was starting to get recruited in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, who is this girl? You
Mm-hmm.
know? And so I started really watching her and stuff. And I was like, okay. But here's the coolest thing though about Allison Royalty. She is not a lights out pitcher.
Mm-mm.
That girl works so hard.
She knows her role. She
Oh
knows her role
my
in her
God.
rotation.
Like
She
even
knows
when
it.
they were
She's
playing
good
against
for it.
OU, like College World Series, the most recent one, they
She
went
threw
through that
two
last
innings.
game. They went through how many pitchers that game? Five?
Five. They threw pitchers. She
And she
threw
was,
one and a half, 1 3/4 innings. 1
and if
2/3,
you go
excuse
back and you look at that video and you watch her body language, she is like this. She is so level the entire time, not
me. You know that
once.
home run that Kaylee Mudge pulled back in?
Mm-hmm.
That would have been the game ender,
Yeah.
right? That would have put them up 8-0. That was Allison Royalty on the mound. And she got out of that inning.
Yep. That's, I mean, that, we don't give those pitchers enough credit. We don't talk about those girls enough as a softball community.
She's hands down my favorite pitcher in college softball right now because of the way she works, and she is accountable, and she knows that she's a role player in the rotation, and she's good for it.
Do
And
you
she's
think that takes her coaches talking to her and do you think that took a coach at one point in her career saying, hey, this is your strength. This is what you're really good at. This is how I'm going to work you into your role.
You know what? I think it took a coach like Coach Alameda at FSU, because when she was at Arizona State under Trish Ford, she was a starter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We got to regionals and super regionals, and we saw her fall out, and we didn't know she had an injury, right? And when we found out there was a hip injury there, and it took her all the off season to recover. She didn't start throwing the ball again until like November,
Mm-hmm.
like a full bullpen. And then she became a role pitcher where she was still starting, but she wasn't handling the workload, or not handling. She wasn't, they didn't give her the workload they did prior to. And then when she got to Florida State, she's got a position, she's got a role to play, and she understands that. And I think Coach A at Florida State is phenomenal.
Oh, I do too. I love listening to her talk. I love it when people interview her. I like just sitting. But that's definitely, I want to make sure I meet her at this year's conference if she goes.
Girl, I met her in an elevator and I panicked.
I panicked. No.
I had my softball players. We went down. I took a few of my 16U girls up to Tallahassee to watch their Garnet and Gold, their inner squad, like to kick off. And afterwards, we went to their like meet and greet. And I got on the elevator, and I backed up into the corner. There was a few of us in there and my softball players. And she walks in. She's the last one getting the elevator. And I was like, and I looked down. And one of my girls, who's built like Kendra Falvey, by the way, that plays for Florida, she looks at me, she goes, Coach, you good? I'm like,
Oh
like,
my
what?
gosh.
I was like, nothing, we're good. And I walked out and I was like, thank you, Coach. She goes, you're welcome, Coach. And she just smiled. I was like, oh my gosh, that was so embarrassing. You hear me talk all the time and I'm so confident. I just, in the presence
That's why
of
you
great,
need to come this
down.
year.
I couldn't even stand there.
It gets easier. It gets easier. Yeah,
Well,
because
I've met Tim Walt, and
yep, me too.
I met the Georgia head coach.
Mhm.
I've met Michigan State's head coach. I've met University of North Carolina Charlotte's head coach. I've met Coach Erickson from South Florida. I've met them, but it was different. It's different. It's when you see these female coaches come back and do what Coach A is doing, and do what Patty Gasso is doing, and do what the Romero sisters are doing, and come back and give to their sport the way they do with such passion. It's so hard to hold space with them.
Oh yeah, I know. You just want to give them a hug, and then you're like, wait, they have no idea
Yeah.
who I am. I remember the second time I met Lisa Fernandez. The first time I was 13,
I would
14.
cry. I would cry.
I made her cry because
No,
yeah,
that's
because
all.
I told her my story about how like watching her play against Oklahoma Baptist with the to me, the gold squad, the USA team, right? Michelle Smith, Dot, like, let's go. Our coach took us to go watch the scrimmage before they took off and did their Olympic tour. And we got to go down. We got to go down and we got to meet them.
That's so awesome.
And Lisa, to me, my little kid mind, she jumped up on the table, like she flew up on the table, and Everybody Goes Surfing came on the radio, and she was like, wipe out. And everybody started laughing, and her personality just came out. And so as I'm telling Lisa this, the second time I met her, I shared with her like how the blood clot happened in my brain and my career was over. And she just started crying. And I said, you were the reason why I wanted to go on and play professionally. You were the reason why I was like, I'm going to become a teacher so I can have summers off and I can move down to Phoenix and I can play. They had like, I don't know if you remember that women's fast pitch team called the Heat. Yeah. I was like, I'm going to come down here. I'm going to play for the Heat. And she just was like, I cannot believe it. Like, and then when Mars and I went to go watch U of A and UCLA play at U of A, UCLA beat U of A twice. Like it was awesome. I was very proud of them. Even though I do like U of A, it was just cool to see a mentor coach, somebody I look up to, dominate. So we're waiting.
It's a freaking another dynasty.
I know. Yeah. And we're waiting and Coach Kelly's right there. I'm like, hey, Coach Kel, like it's getting to this place where I'm like, Coach Kel, like, where's Lisa at? And she's like, oh, she's hitting fun coach her. Boy, she's in mom mode now. And then I walk up and I'm like, what up, Lisa? She's like, oh my gosh. So she got to meet Mars and it's just like, you talk about wedding invitation.
Yeah.
I hope that everything I've brought into my coaching career, the hardships, the early mornings, the late nights, the conversations between other coaches, the videos, I hope that one day I'm able to make a kid feel like that, or if I haven't already, like I'm so grateful to have that position, in their life. So with that, let's see, I gotta put my glasses on because my eyes are already dying. They're like battery charged.
Falling asleep in the chair.
So I think we probably already hit on this one. What do you do when athletes, when travelball athletes think high school is a joke? Again, it's not really something we can fix. That's definitely like a foundational problem. That's obviously parents. I do think there are coaches, travelball coaches that talk about high school being a joke. I think that narrative needs to stop. But again, if leadership in schools aren't bringing in qualified coaches,
make it a joke.
It's like.
But there's also travelball coaches and travelball programs that are a joke. So it's not a matter of one or the other. It's a matter of we got to do better on both ends.
Amen. Like we're talking out of both sides of our face at that point. Too much power. We talked about that. Parents having too much power. Talk to your parents. High school gets you the scholarship. Yeah, girl, we covered everything.
Yes, ma'am.
So so let's just, mic drop it. High school gets you the scholarship.
You get recruited.
Travelball is going to get you the exposure.
You get exposure. That's where the recruitment is as far as athletic ability. But you don't earn any scholarship money if your grades are not where they need to be. You get your scholarship in school. So play school ball, manage full-time school ball, manage full-time school. Show them that you can do it every single day and manage it. Because if you can't manage it at the high school level, you're not going to manage it at the college level.
No, not at all. Okay, this is my microphone. I'm dropping. Drop. I actually have one right here. You could drop it. All right, so that was a plethora of information. I know you have lessons you have to get ready to go to.
Yeah, that's good.
I know, I was watching the time, like, okay, I'm not going to leave for this long. So this will be out soon. I know you guys are going to love it. There's a lot of information here, and I can't wait to get this out to you guys. But I always got to give myself space to make sure I'm being a good mom, being a good wife. So this will be out on Monday.
Just like a word of advice for all the coaches out there. I think we've come away from wanting to be the best coach for ourselves and not the best coach for the kid. So we need to remember that unless we're on the field in a game, you're not my competition. I am not your competition. If we cannot come together and learn and grow the sport together so that on the field, the competition is what it should be, we're going to lose sight of why we do everything. And so we need to remember
always be for the
that
kid.
my job isn't for my ego. My job is to leave this sport in better hands than it was when I first started.
Amen. With that, we're going to close with one question. Rapid fire.
Yes, ma'am.
If you had little Evelyn in front of you,
Oh,
what would you tell her?
don't stop pushing. Make yourself uncomfortable, make them uncomfortable, and just keep going.
I love it. Lift weights. Lift weights.
Yes,
That'll help
ma'am.
you push.
Lift big, throw gas, hit bombs. King of Jucosta.
All right. Okay. Shout out to Rip City.
Yes, ma'am.
Yep,
Rip City,
gotta do that. I saw they finally started following me on Instagram. Yay! So
I told them, I said, man, we got to get on there. This is where it's at. So
yeah, no, I'm excited. I'm very excited. I'm excited that you were able to make your grand announcement. Big things happening with you, Ev. October's coming too.
Again, it's happening through me. Big things happening through me for a reason. For what that reason?
For a reason. Yes, ma'am. And a lot of other things are going to be affected positively through that. So
that's the goal.
Yes, ma'am. All right. Well, you take care. Thanks for being on the show.
I absolutely love you.
All right. Love you too, girl.